doors are kept locked for a reason. But what do you do when something behind one of those doors asks for your help? For Mr. Takahashi, a young and idealistic new teacher, his first overnight duty was a rite of passage. The old school building, which was vibrant and noisy during the day, transformed into a labyrinth of silence and shadows after dark. As the old janitor was leaving for the night, he gave Takahashi a final piece of advice. He pointed down the long, dark third-floor hallway. "All the rooms are empty up there now," the old man had said, his voice low. "But one of them, the old music room at the very end, you must never open that door, no matter what you might hear. It's the most important rule of the night duty." Takahashi, a man of logic, simply nodded and smiled, dismissing it as the superstitious rambling of an old man. He had papers to grade. The night would be long and quiet. The hours passed in silence, marked only by the scratching of his red pen and the low hum of the fluorescent lights above him. Around midnight, he was startled by a sound. It was faint, distant, but unmistakable. A piano. A simple, sorrowful melody was drifting down from somewhere above him. The third floor. The old music room. He tried to rationalize it. The wind whistling through a broken window, perhaps, or just the groans of an old building settling. He took a deep breath, shook his head, and tried to focus on his work, but a few minutes later the piano music stopped, and a new sound began. It was the sound of a child, softly crying. This was different. This he could not ignore. He was a teacher. His duty was to his students. The thought of a child locked in a room crying was unbearable. He made his way to the third floor. The air up there was colder, the darkness more profound. He walked down the long hallway, his footsteps the only sound besides the distant, mournful sobbing. He stopped in front of the final door. The old music room. The wood was dark and warped. He pressed his ear against it. The moment he did, the crying stopped. There was only silence. He felt a wave of relief mixed with foolishness. It must have been his imagination. As he turned to leave, a new sound came from the other side of the door. A small, fragile voice whispering his name. "Takahashi-sensei," it pleaded. "Please, help me. It's so dark in here." His blood ran cold. It knew his name. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to obey the janitor's warning. But the voice, it sounded so real, so terrified. What if a student had been accidentally locked inside? He couldn't live with himself if he just walked away. With a deep breath, he turned the handle. The door creaked open into a void of absolute pitch-black darkness. A thick, musty smell of dust and decay washed over him. He pulled out his phone, his hand trembling as he fumbled to turn on the flashlight. He aimed the bright white beam into the room. It was completely empty. There was no piano, no furniture, and no child. Just a thick layer of dust on the floor, undisturbed for what looked like decades. He felt a fool. It was all just a prank or his tired mind playing tricks on him. He took a step back into the hallway, and as he did, the heavy wooden door began to swing shut on its own. But in the final sweep of his flashlight's beam, he saw it. The inside of the door was covered in them, hundreds of deep, desperate scratch marks, splintering the wood around the handle. And for a horrifying fraction of a second, he saw a pale face with enormous dark eyes looking back at him from the darkness behind the door as it clicked shut, plunging the room back into blackness. He finally understood. The sounds weren't coming from something that was locked in. They were coming from something that desperately wanted to get out.